Many thanks for the traffic update, Stephen Mbide. We shall be hearing from you a little bit later, as we shall be hearing too from the likes of Daniel Kibet, Coslin Agasaro, as well as Julius Ochen, as they bring us up to speed with what's happening across the country as Ugandans prepare for the general election in 2026. Let's return to close quarters and get our Kickstarter underway. Using elections as a development vehicle for Ugandans, do elections really complement development and also enhance accountability? That's the question for the day. I'll be introducing my guests very shortly, but our preamble is the fact that elections are often hailed as a cornerstone of democracy, a mechanism that should guarantee accountability, legitimacy, and the possibility of structural change. But in many developing countries, including Uganda, their actual impact on development is deeply contested. Critics argue that incumbents subvert democratic norms through coercion, vote buying, and institutional capture, thereby diluting the transformational potential for elections. As Uganda prepares for January 15th, these debates are more urgent than ever. Voter participation has sharply declined. Turnout in 2021 was about 57.2%, down from 72 in an earlier year. At the same time, the trust in the Electoral Commission remains weak, with only 48% of Ugandans reporting some or a lot of trust in the EC. That's according to the 2025 Afro Barometer. In all that, experts are warning that the 2026 polls are under threat from institutional challenges, militarization of the electoral process, vote buying, and a lack of transparency. What's a little bit more about that? We also have Okot Ola, a member of the NRM Youth League. Many thanks for joining me, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for having me.
Great. Let's begin with the contestant, aspirant for Kampala Woman MP position.
Many things change. I desire to see a better Uganda than we have had over the years. Yes, in brief, that is me.
All right. Thank you very much, and a warm welcome to Morning at 10 TV. Mr. Okot Ola.
Yes, ma'am.
The NRM Youth League.
Yes.
Tell us about what's happening there.
Thank you very much. My name is Okot Ola. I also happen to be the newly elected Secretary for Legal Affairs within the National Youth Council.
Ah, congratulations.
Thank you. And we shall soon swear in 2025 to 2030. Okay. I'm also part and proudly a member of the NRM Youth League, which is also on the back of its own structural elections. And right now, we, of course, as NRM party, are preparing for the general elections, where we have a presidential flag bearer, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, but also several flag bearers across the country. I've just come back from the campaign trail. I moved with our president from West Nile to Acholi, to Karamoja, Teso, Bugisu, and along the way been interacting with youth and trying to assess the political situation. I think it's generally stable amidst the usual electoral challenges, and I'm looking forward to this discussion to bring some of them out, and we see a way forward. Finally, before we start, part of, just like the young generation, chartering our generational mission, as Franz Fanon says, every generation must find its mission and either fulfill it or betray it. Right. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. We shall, of course, be hearing from you on what exactly is transpiring on the campaign trail and what the sentiments of the youth out there are. Allow me to return to Evelyn Kent Kasiri. Looking at the politics of the day, many are questioning whether democracy is being threatened, given the litany of challenges that we face as a country. Apologies for that hitch. I was asking you whether you feel that the trajectory that we are on as a country, and as far as our democracy is concerned, is one that inspires you or leaves you questioning how we or where we are going for that, for example.
I love very positive. Actually, in my perspective, it is very questioning, and it has been questioning for a very long time. I perceive this is one of the reasons that pushed some of us to actually want to pursue this particular path. I perceive if everything was perhaps could have been in a manner that I would have anticipated it better. Let me give an example. If at all our politics could rhyme the politics of, let me say, the first world countries, it would be far much better. It would be so easy to trust those in power, so easy to trust the system, so easy to trust so many things. However, it is our politics are very complex. If we are talking about democracy, and we are to talk about how Ugandans say trust the systems at play, it's very questioning. In my view, there are so many. We have so many. However, there are so many pros and cons in this. It's not only one best. It's just that the disadvantage is the cons outweigh the pros. Why? Because the pros are short-lived, and many a times they are more manipulative. Perhaps because those that are already in power want to stay in power and do not want to leave power. You know, so there are so many dynamics we can look at. I can give a few examples on the positive side. Positive side, our democracy. It's questioning, to be honest. Very questioning.
Okay.
Yes, especially if you're to relate it to development, very questioning. Because now talk about Kampala. This is the city I'm vying for. In my perspective, let me be honest, Kampala shouldn't be the city it is now. Being as capital city, it should be better, it should look better. Every aspect about Kampala should be far much better than it is now. Interestingly, even our politics, I expect politicians in Kampala that are more challenging, both on the opposition and those in power. But interesting, it's not the case. And I perceive because of so many changes that have come, that have been adjusted over the years, which do not actually, I think, give room to those some of the best fruits coming up. We've witnessed how the educated keep out of politics.
Yep.
And they actually don't want to participate, even voting, to the level of voting. You know, that is just
some
so,
choose not to vote.
They actually
themselves.
choose not to vote, but there's a reason why they do not choose. They choose not to vote. Case scenario, Kampala has over 3 million voters, but over the years we've witnessed the biggest percentage of voters come to 400,000. That is a very big gap. It's less than even quarter.
Less than.
You know, it's such a small margin. But then it also shows you why very many people are not trusting the system to the level of just allowing it to flow. That shows you that so many gaps are in between there. Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting one. Now that you're vying for the Kampala Woman MP seat, you're coming into the throes of this.
Yes.
And I hope that you can manage, especially if the heat in the kitchen increases. Ola.
Yes.
Uganda's democracy trajectory is fraught with challenges. And if the words of Madame Kasiri are anything to go by, it's a case of looking at the pros and the cons and understanding how best you can deal with whatever challenge that it is. But we've held elections successfully over the years. We've also been able to allow for many people to be actively involved in the voting of their leaders. They have a say. That is surely progress on its own. But given the contradictions, what needs to be tweaked in order for us to actually feel like we are on the right path?
All right, thank you very much. First of all, I don't think, given my time in politics, we can discuss democracy as an issue of pros and cons. Because when you say pros and cons, you assume if the cons are more, you can do away with it. Or if the pros are more, you can do away with it. But I think we can all agree that democracy, at the bare minimum, is the best system among the worst. Among the worst. Okay? In other words, we have nowhere to go. And we have to struggle with it. It's a continuous process. And when you look at Uganda's pathway, from the history coming up to now, and then now picking up and going forward, I think we're actually on a positive trajectory democratically. If you look at a country, first of all, politically, we come from a history of so many coup d'etats, so many rogue governments with a lot of, impunity that happened in the past. And you just need to read the preamble of the Uganda institution. Socially, we come from a country that handed to us a culture of religion, that there's politics for Catholics, for Muslims, there's a party for Anglicans, and so on and so forth. Then there was tribe, the Northerners, the Westerners, and all this. I'm speaking from a national lens. And then economically, you come from a country that was set up to serve the West, just like other African countries. They talk of the T and 3 C's, tobacco, coffee, copper, and cotton. That's what were our role in the world. And so these were disenfranchised citizens. And so we inherited this in 1986 as a party, but also try to start elevating. And indeed, NRM has gone through a lot of challenges coming from that, because while the government changes, the people don't change in one day. And so it's a process of social engineering and political engineering. And luckily, we have gone through 1996, 2001, 2006, 11, 16, 21, and again, we continue with this experiment. Indeed, there are challenges. Indeed, there are overzealous elements on all sides of the equation. There are disoriented elements, but there are also emerging issues. Personally, for me, the best thing that we can do for our democracy right now is to properly orient our youth. Properly orient our youth such that they engage in this process not with a negative view. There's 2 forms of negative view: non-participation, but also, participating in negative or bad politics. And I think we are not immune from politics of tribe, not immune from politics of religion. So we need civic education for our youth to be able to participate and even contest for political. And I think this is the biggest threat to our country sustainably going forward, that we have this bulge of youth, 78% of the population, that needs to be tuned to correct politics. Politics has 2 things: contestation and participation. And I think with the right software in our youth mindset, we are good to go for a long time to come.
Interesting submission there, especially one that requires to bring in the youth, not just as passive players or people that can be used. We've often seen politicians hiring youth to do so many sorts of things, to the extent that we now have the vigilante groups, the ones that people call Egali. I do not know whether Madam Evelyn Ken Kasiri, in your agenda as a woman member of parliament for Kampala, the youth dividend is something that you have looked at very keenly in order to get the best out of them going forward.
First and foremost, before I even go deeper into the youth, to be honest, I desire the youth to change their mindset with our politics, because ideally, the politics that we have today has been shaped with a lot of lies. Yeah, so it's like, it's interesting that let me begin with this. You see, it's so interesting to talk about, to hear a ruling party member talk about wanting to see the youth change, when ideally very many things are not changing. We have an issue of so many of the incumbents that want to overstay in power. And this is evidenced by our own constitution. An example is the 2005 constitution, the change that took place, that now allows us people to contest for as long as you can contest. I perceive, before we even talk about the youth joining politics and so many things changing, there are things that we need to put back into order. Okay. Yeah, I believe we need to put our constitution in order, because see, our constitution guides the whole nation, and it guides the whole politics. So if politics is no longer, if the paperwork that was put in place is no longer being followed, and if it can be manipulated as and when it fits the tastes of those in power, then you realize that the generation that is upcoming, the youth, and it's so interesting that in today's, like, I'll give an example, my manifesto, it's money in your pocket. The rich will rule over the poor. As a Christian, scripture clearly says it's the rich rule over the poor. So you notice that there is so much that is at play that would love to see change. Before the youth is able to speak up and take over that throne, I want an empowered youth. I want a youth who is economically doing well. I want a youth who will not be used, who will not be manipulated by finances. Because you see, in my manifesto, one of the things I talk about that is very key is money is meant to be a tool that is supposed to be used to empower us or for development purposes. If money is placed in its place, let me give an example. Money is ideally one of the tools that we are meant to use. It's supposed to serve us. But when you study our politics and the way the trends are operating and how they've been operating over the years, money has actually shifted its seats. It's no longer serving us; we are now serving it. And you see, when a tool that was created to serve man and empower and be utilized by man to run the agendas or to run everything around us, the moment it switches positions, there's so many things switch. So ideally at the moment you cannot talk about the youth. I wouldn't desire so much youth to take over that seat when they are more needy than they are willing to serve. I want a youth that is empowered, a youth that is economically stable.
Okay.
Yeah, so for me, I look at scenarios whereby we need to stabilize our economy, we need to stabilize our constitution, we need to guiding laws that guide us. We need so many things put into shape, into control, before we can even start bringing forth the youth into the picture. Because ideally, if the youth, I'll give an example, my generation. I have witnessed one president my whole time. I've not witnessed Uganda with a different president. I'm not saying that I'm sure there are very many youth who want to see a change. Why? Because you blame everything to the seat, to the person occupying the top seat, whether you like it or not. At the end of the day, I perceive it's one of the things that has encouraged so many youth to join opposition than many to be in power. Interestingly, if you notice, most of the youth that are in power, they're there because in one way or another they are benefiting.
They're benefiting or being used as a tool.
Or being used as a tool. So at the end of the day, if you're being used as a tool and you're not actually, I look at myself today and ask myself, okay, fine, if I join politics, do I want to see a Uganda 10 years from, do I want my children to witness the Uganda I've witnessed? I don't.
Okay. Thank you so much, Evelyn Kate Kasiri, for that. And I'll be returning to this conversation a little later. Allow me go to my colleague, Julius Ochen, who is standing by in Lira. Now, in Lira district, the campaigns are heating up, especially in Erute South, as NRM Sam Engola, a former MP, a former state minister, and a special presidential advisor, returns to claim the seat he lost in 2021 to Jonathan Odul. What are his prospects like, if I may ask? And good morning, my colleague, Julius Ochen.
Very, very good morning, viewers. I'm coming live from
the country a little bit later on the updates on what's happening in as far as the canvassing for votes is concerned. We heard from Julius Ochen in Lira, who spoke to Sam Engola, who is seeking to return after being trounced by Jonathan Odul in 2021. But in his submission, he talked about the fact that he is, as he said, going to build hospitals, churches, and I was taken a little bit aback. As a member of parliament, it is not his role to build churches, hospitals, and to represent himself as one who can is actually a misrepresentation. And on the part of the media, this is something that we must make very clear. But we are lucky, we have an aspirant and a politician on board on Morning at NTV this morning. And I want to put that question to them. And in that same stead, allow me welcome Agnes Namaganda to Morning at NTV. You're most welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Chris. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm Agnes Namaganda, a member of National Unity Platform. I would like to thank our President, Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, for the work that he's doing around the country, mobilizing for the protest vote 2026. I want to congratulate all presidential aspirants that are moving around the country, trying to participate in the 2026 elections, plus the MPs that recently started their activities around their constituencies. Thank you so much.
For the avoidance of doubt, you ran or contested for the party flag bearer position for the Kampala Woman MP seat. You did not go through. What's the next course of action?
My next course of action is to participate more in party activities, have visibility, because this is not the first time I'm participating in the primaries of the National Unity Platform. I participated in the primaries of National Unity Platform in 2020 as well. So this has been the second time that I'm participating. And different from 2020 possibly, is that I'm not going back into corporate work, because I left the corporate world to participate in the 2020 elections, primaries in National Unity Platform. And when I lost, I went back
this time
into corporate work. This time I'm going to be participating more in party activities, although I've just now been recovering and trying to rejuvenate before I can do that.
Perfectly understandable. Let me return to Evelyn, and this question is in light of what Sam Engola said. He wants to build hospitals, build churches for the people of Erute South. And as a journalist, I think that is one of the long-standing misrepresentations that we've had, where members of parliament project the ability to do things that are not well within their mandate. What's your view on that?
First and foremost, it doesn't surprise me, it does not shock me to hear that. Because that's exactly what I was talking about. Our politics is shaped with lots of lies. You know, politicians, when we are out, we many a times, politicians tend to promise our voters for the fight for the vote. You give promises that ideally you may not fulfill. And I perceive this has gone on from generation to generation. Reason being, it seems the voters, or let me say the citizens, don't actually put pressure on the candidates to actually, account for the terms of, your time in office. But other than that, it's very important to know the roles of an MP to start with. Building hospitals is not, let me give an example, it will not be my race. I can advocate to have them improved, because I'm here to represent the people, and I'm here to answer, to be a gap between the government and the people, to be their voice, and to ensure that at the end of the day, their needs are met. However, him saying he's going to build up hospitals, what if he does not, at the end of the day, manage to build the hospitals? Interestingly, he'll still come back and promise a school this time around. And and that has been ongoing over the seasons. We've witnessed politicians promise, and these promises fly in thin air. And they still come back and promise new things. However, my desire, like I was saying, I would love to see our politics take a new turn, a new shape, where politicians you're given credibility to actually come back and stand before people based on performance. We look at your mandate, we look at what you promised us before you went into power, and what did you do about it? How far have you moved with your promises you gave previously? However, it's also very important for our voters to actually know what an MP can do and what an MP cannot do, and how far an MP can reach into delivering the deliverables of the promises that have been put before us.
Okay, you speak about how far an MP can reach in terms of making good of the promises. And Ola, the National Resistance Movement politicians seem to believe that they are in a good position to condition some of these things. After all, President Museveni has often said, if you vote for an NRM member, it means we shall work more closely, and then the hospitals and service delivery will come through. But that should not be the case. The president must be able to work with any MP as long as they are the duly elected member of parliament of any constituency.
All right, thank you very much. First of all, regarding Honorable Sam Engola, I think as we know, the roles of an MP, oversight, legislation, representation, and of course budgeting. Those are the primary roles, and there's no disagreement. But the reality of politics is people come with different strengths. So some of you come with integrity, some people come with philanthropy, some people come with academic track record. And so if he's doing his philanthropy, it's up to him within his constituency. And besides, if he fails to achieve it, he will fail. He's not coming as an incumbent. He's coming as someone who failed elections. And therefore, it is up to him whether he promises and delivers or not, but he knows the consequences. As you know, from the 10th to the 11th Parliament, only 107 MPs returned to the House. It therefore means that you promise at your own risk. Promise at your own risk. But the citizens of Uganda watch. There's a system, and it is going to remove 3/4 of MPs, meaning there's something that the citizens check every other term. So as to Engola's personal promises, they're up to him if he delivers, but the roles of a member of parliament stay the same. Regarding members of parliament that are NRM, I believe that is politics as a party, but it's also based on the reality. NRM has something called a caucus, just like I believe NUP has, where MPs do get close touch with the president, where they caucus on different ideas. But also NRM as a party has majority of the members of parliament by way of democracy and the selection of the citizens. So you find that there's a smoother process of policy going through. But I don't think, if you look at the reach of electricity, the reach of education, the reach of health center 3s, now 6,500 in the country, amidst some qualitative challenges, I don't think there is serious discrimination of areas where there's opposition or not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Agnes Namaganda, we've had incidents where members of parliament or aspirants have withdrawn some of the things they've done for communities, including the purchase of ambulances. And Mr. Ola here speaks of the fact that if somebody is a philanthropist and is able to come through on some of these critical aspects of service delivery, then that is entirely up to them. If somebody can withdraw an ambulance, the one who builds the hospital can also easily say, get out of my hospital. And that would augur badly for the political landscape.
Just like my sister Evelyn has said, some of these services cannot be provided by individuals. However, we have seen, for example, Among built a hospital during her tenure, this recent, the current, Anita Among, the current speaker. She built a hospital. We've had Kutesa building a church, and we've also had the deputy speaker Taiwa building a 2 billion church in his constituency.
Wow.
So we've had people delivering on some of these promises. I don't know if they promised them that they would maybe build those kinds of establishments, but we've had politicians actually delivering on that front. Okay. However, I would like to say that some of these services actually are supposed to be provided by the government, and when we see people in government providing these services, it means that they are making the ones that do not have the financial muscle.
To look bad.
Yeah, to look bad. You're making them look bad. You're making them look like they cannot. Yet this is not the role of an MP. For example, if you look at Engola, he's a businessman. He has a lot of financial muscle to support that kind of promise. If you look at, for example, Anita Among, the reason why we're having the trending Anita Among should go, the hashtag on X, is because if you look at the budget of Anita Among right now and the budget of her predecessor, Kadaga was at 1.8 billion. Anita Among right now, her budget for her office is at 18 billion. So you cannot compare. So with that kind of maybe budget, with that kind of money at her disposal, she's able to put up things like a hospital in her constituency, something that other MPs, even in opposition, maybe that don't have access to that kind of money, are not able to put up. So what am I saying? I'm saying that Engola may deliver actually. He may deliver, but it means that the system is going to be affected by people who are providing services that are essentially supposed to be provided by the government. Our government is supposed to be providing these services actually free of charge. If you look at the time when colonialists built hospitals like Mulago, they were well financed. Even if you came from which village, you were able to come to Mulago, get the services that you needed for free. So it means that we are making the system defunct by providing services that are supposed to be provided by the government. So we are not helping government actually, because your role is supposed to you're supposed to legislate to have these services provided around the whole country. But if you individually stand in this gap and you're providing them for your own personal constituents, it means that there are places that are not going to benefit, maybe that have MPs that do not have your kind of finances.
That is right.
Yes.
And of course, that brings into question something that is aligned to our discussion today, that democracy itself might be challenged as a credible tool for redistributive development. Sometimes when you want to address inequality and you are aligned to the ruling party, and if you are opposition, I don't know whether the word misaligned is okay to use in that case, then the level of development can be affected on that note. Ladies and gentlemen, I just want to go a little bit deeper into the aspect of independence and what that will make the next parliament's shape. It could look totally different from the one that is ending, and I do not know how the dynamics will play out, but are independence any good for us as a country?
Yes.
They are?
Yes, they are. Actually, I would advocate for
a lot more
of independence, because parties have affected our politics a lot.
Ooh.
And it is evidenced by the ruling party. It's like like my sister mentioned, Agnes, the ruling party has more access to funds. And in my introduction, I talked about the manipulative measures that are put into place as a measure to stay in power for long. You realize that places that have NRM incumbents, most of them actually it's easy to realize development than it is when it comes to particular places that have opposition. Now, how about it if in our next parliament got middlemen? You know, you're neither for the ruling party, nor into opposition. And sometimes it gets me to question: are parties really helping us, or they're actually standing in the way to where Uganda should be heading? Because if you realize, I would expect that if parties had, let me say, 50-50 kind of power struggle, it would be kind of easy. Why? Because resources would be centralized, and it would be so easy to redistribute them evenly to all regions. But you realize that particular territories that have, let me say, NRM incumbents easily realize development. They can. It's one of the schemes that is being used
as a campaign.
Campaigns, you know. You realize that the leaders are advocating for more of NRM members to be voted into power, and you see this has worked against us over the time. An example I gave you of the 2005 constitution change. You notice that every single time there is a policy that is ideally meant to govern a state and it's being changed, money is used against the nation. And these are public resources that we are using. But they're enriching a few. And you notice that when we talk about income inequality, you know, it's interesting that, let me give an example. In my campaigns, I've noticed a trend. The rich are rich. They have the money. But the poor are actually poor. You know? It's
a case of two extremes.
Yes, it's a case of two extremes. But we should be in a state whereby at least we should leverage. The gap shouldn't be so big. But you notice that the gap, the more our politics continue the trend it has, the gap widens. And it's something that we cannot sort in just, you know.
Okay, so aren't independents more like middlemen who are placing themselves in order to gain from all sides? From the ruling party when legislation is favoring, or the opposition when the public opinion is swinging towards them? Isn't that something that independents are going to exhaust or manipulate?
Well, just getting to that, first of all, I want to agree with my sister for maybe the first time on this debate. On the issue of political parties, really, when you look at government politicians, in principle, government does provide services across the country and cares. Mzee has already said that the development cake is for everyone, though the political cake might not be, but the development cake. So you might not have your MP of an opposition party becoming a minister. That is political cake.
It's quite a funny statement in the political economy.
Yeah, but that said, when you look at hospitals, electricity, really the president is a dreamer. He's passionate about this reaching each and every one, at least en masse first, then quality later. Yeah. But then when you look at political parties, you see a trend of NRM using their government status to maybe pitch. That is NRM flag bearers. But then you also see opposition using a lot of inflammatory. Every government has critiques, including this one. But wielding that to manipulate the population into extremism, you know, as its advantage, similar to the political advantage the people incumbent are playing. Now, where I agree with her is we just have to look back across. Everyone talks with admiration of the movement system that was there between 86 and 2005, where we had one party, sorry, one system, one movement, individual merit. And it wasn't until the West, that's why sometimes we are critical of NUP's relations, because sometimes they come with, you know, they look like good intentions, well quoted from the Western side, and they implant it within us, and it simply causes division and spoils the politics of the country, in which case we had formed our own system here, which was okay. I would compete with my sisters without any political party, just on our merit, and we all have one goal: to develop Uganda. And so I think on that note, I agree. We were misguided to some extent, and hopefully somewhere along the way, we have the courage to come back together and work together for a better Uganda. Thank you.
Agnes, Mr. Ola has just heaped blame on the National Unity Platform being in bed with the West, and that is foreign powers, and that some of the policies that you might aspire to roll out in case the National Unity Platform is in government could be detrimental. Talk to us about that, but also the numbers game. What do independents bring to the National Unity Platform? Can you leverage on the number of independents that are coming out of the National Resistance Movement, but also ensure that you do not lose people to become independents?
We have independents, and most of them actually coming from losing primaries. For example, if you look at the independents that have joined the campaigns from National Unity Platform, an ideal example is Segona. He has become an independent automatically. In Rubaga South, where I come from, the incumbent MP, Aloysius Mukasa, also wasn't given the party flag, and he has also come back as an independent. So even in NRM, we have the same scenarios. People lose the party flags and then they come back as independent. But of course, also that comes from we've seen it, because even Musiri from National Unity Platform also lost didn't get the party flag, and he's also back as an independent in the same constituency. So first of all, I would like to explore the reasons why we are having so many independents who are from these major parties coming in. Because if you look at the way the election management committees in these parties are handling elections, for example, in the perfect example of Musiri, in Machindia West, because Zahra had contested for Kampala Woman, and then she's given the Machindia West, and then Musiri, David and others go to complain, and then when they complain, they are not listened to. So Zahara maintains the flag, and therefore he comes in as an independent. So he's dividing the cake for National Unity Platform in Machindia West, and we may not eat, there is a way the vote is divided. Even there is, I think we also have Ntege Farouk there, who was also from National Unity Platform. So we have a number of independents, and they may win the election due to the inefficiencies within the election management committees in the parties. So if parties if parties do not work on the way they are handling elections at party level, if the election management committees do not work on that, it is the reason why we end up having so many independents.
How is the flag given in NUP?
That's not where we are. I was just
You cannot say there's an election problem when there's
even in NRM we had so many people contesting.
In NRM we had elections.
You had elections, that is true, but we saw money. No, don't talk about NRM like it's an angel. We all know that we saw people, we saw children lining up.
My issue
we
is
saw
you
money
were saying
being given. What
elections
I'm saying is,
within the party.
within parties, all parties. No, we have procedures through which we give the party flag, and everybody agrees. If a party has agreed that this is how we have decided that we give the flag, it is okay. National Unity Platform decided it is not a, sorry, maybe that was
the issue of Musiri, just to be clear, is understandable. He did not contest the election management committee's
he did.
What he contested was the fact that a candidate who was vying for another constituency was pushed to the constituency where he was, and therefore, on account of the party's overarching objectives and strategy, he was taken out. That is his contestation.
But was he going to win? Was he going to get the flag anyway?
No, it's not me to determine whether he will win or not. But I think his point was...
Maybe for the good of the public. How does NUP determine
I
its
think
flag bearers?
that's besides the point. That is not the reason why we are here. We have a question. We have a question about independents, and we are saying that some of these independents are popular, and because they are popular, they are going to win seats, and we saw it. We've been seeing the number.
You still have some grip on them.
You do.
Some
we
leverage,
do.
So to speak.
There is actually leverage because, for example, if you're an independent coming from NRM, you stand to gain a lot if you win the constituency. There is a lot to be given because even just going to parliament, we have bills that we vote for or we vote against, and you're quoted generally. You're quoted both by the opposition and the ruling party. So you're in the middle, and there is a lot to gain when you are when you're in opposition.
All right. Thank you very much. That is quite deep, and I hope the National Unity Platform can do some thought and reflection on it. Evelyn, you seem to have a submission in response to Agnes Namaganda.
Yes. Actually, it's interesting that our politics, it's more partisan than it is. We are more interested into the interests of our parties winning more seats in parliament. It's more about a competition of parties than it is actually about Uganda as a nation. You see, Uganda came before all these parties, and Uganda will outlive these parties. So for us to get to a place where our politics advances from one level to another, we've got to reach a level where we outgrow party drama. But for as long as parties are still, let me say, a big, my colleague has talked about political cake, party cake vis-a-vis the national cake. It's interesting. We are all here to serve Uganda, and service is something that we should. You offer a service, and but it looks like Ugandan politics, the way it has been shaped, it goes beyond service. It is more of, what do I have to gain at the end of the day? So you realize that even as we are vying for these seats, the narrative that is out there, it's more of the party. And because it is based on party, you realize that we are pushing candidates into parliament who are actually meant to be in the market selling tomatoes. I'm sorry to say this. And you realize that Uganda, at the end of the day, by the way, it's a shame. You look at how our constitution runs, you look at how politics runs. At the end of the day, you cannot talk about Ugandan politics on an international market. Why? Because candidates who are actually not qualified to be in the house are in the house. And you realize when they get the seats, they disappear. They show up when the next vote, when it's time for the next campaigns. And then, this hurts me a lot. I'll give an example. In 2020, I vied for the same seat. Woman MP Kampala. But because Kampala is more opposition than it is into NRM, you realize that it's very easy for, let me give an example. Last time, it was all about the wave. So and because the elite do not participate into politics, you realize that those that are not land are making decisions for the land. And where the land are sitting back, guess what? The political arena has become like a football game. So you realize that we are sending people into parliament who are actually just here to play games. No wonder when they get into parliament, they vanish, they disappear. And before you know it, we are left with a crisis.
Interesting there. Let me save face for the beautiful game of football that there's a lot more organization in there, some passion, so to speak, and the way people conduct themselves in pursuit of victory is quite humane than the politicians themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, this conversation is going to have to be wrapped up, but let me do the wraps up on Kampala, and this is something I'm going to ask all of you. Let's begin with the one who is in the arena for the fight for Kampala. Kampala has long been a bone of contention for politicians. Many say development is not as effective or speedy as it ought to be on account of the fact that the NRM is not holding fort. I do not know whether if elections favored the national resistance movement, then all of a sudden Kampala would be what we want. But what is your kind of master plan, so to speak, for this embattled capital?
First and foremost, my prayer that this supersedes, let me say, what man can do, is to have the right candidates in parliament, candidates that are actually willing to fight to reclaim back Uganda into a state that is that speaks for itself, a state that we can all look back and we are proud to have. And Kampala being the capital city, ideally, it would be, I would love creme de la creme to go into parliament. Once the creme de la creme is into parliament, then the fight begins.
Or even council,
yes,
KCC.
Because ideally we should not get into a place whereby, unless it is NRM is dominant, then we are able to realize development. No, development is a right, and we are using national resources to have all this done. So ideally, Kampala as a state, one, I would love it so much if our voters get into a place whereby we start voting people based on credibility, and we should not push back the same people into parliament who have nothing to show us. Ideally, before I should cast my vote again, show me what you have done.
Oh, interesting there.
And then what future do I have trusting you? If I trusted you before and you let me down, what makes, I cannot keep doing the same thing over and over expecting different results.
Agnes Namaganda, you had a manifesto and an agenda when you set out to compete for the NOP ticket for the Kampala Women MP seat. I do not know whether there's any particular candidate with whom you've shared this manifesto in order for her to take it further, or you are choosing to use it in other ways. I do not know. Just take us through what exactly that was and how you think much of it can be achieved.
I must say that I didn't have a manifesto, although that sounds outlandish, but I would say that...
You didn't have a manifesto?
Yes.
It sounds...
really, really outlandish, but I'll tell you why. First of all, yes.
Okay.
Because the people of Kampala, I've studied the people of Kampala, and you'll agree with me. The people of Kampala are the most sensitive to whatever is happening in this country. They love their country. They follow the news. They follow what's happening in the country. And if going by the voting, by the way they have been voting in the last 20 years, for example, in 2006, 56.9% of Kampala voted Kyagulanyi. Kampala alone, according to the statistics on the EC website. So that is, if you round off, it's about 6 people out of every 10 in Kampala wanted a different government. In 2021, 72.8% of the people in Kampala voted Kyagulanyi, meaning that 7 out of 10 want regime change. So the thing that people of Kampala have already realized is that even if you have a manifesto, it is not going anywhere. First of all, do you know that Kampala is run by NRM? The budget goes to NRM. NRM has an executive director. They have technocrats that actually manage the budgets of Kampala.
Those are government officials. They're not NRM party.
What I'm saying is that they're elected by NRM, so they are playing to the NRM card. It is like saying that EC, EC is independent. EC is not independent. The head of EC is installed by the president. So they actually play to the desires of the current president. So you cannot say that they're independent. So we cannot, for example, Jennifer Musisi was appointed by the president. Yes, she was appointed by, and she's the one who runs the budget of Kampala. So you cannot say that because the opposition, most of the seats in opposition, in most of the political seats in Kampala are occupied by opposition, therefore opposition is in charge of Kampala. These people have been saying for the last 20 years that it is Biabianswa. They are occupying these positions, but they're not getting anything out of it. So for me, let me finish with this. So for me, going by the way Kampalans voted in 2021, the #1 desire
regime change.
It's regime change.
Let's talk about crafting manifestos after that.
Possibly, but we can, yes, let's go, because they want someone who is going to stand strong and produce a direction for how they can cause regime change. They stopped desiring services because they know this government will never give them the services that they want. They just want this government to go and they get a new government. That's what they want.
Mr. Okot Ola, wrap this conversation up for us in a minute.
All right. Thank you very much. Unbelievably disappointed in my sister. First of all, coming to an election without an agenda. The legitimate interests of any group of people has never been regime change. What people want is livelihood. They want a better city. And we all members of Kampala City, we all want a better city. And I think it is that same reason that the NUP wave, which I think will reflect in the upcoming elections, will dwindle down exponentially, because you cannot govern a country in such a volatile region with a bulge, a youth bulge, needing a vision, and you say the only thing you want is regime change.
Ola, you're my friend. Will you give me a minute, just of your time, Ola?
No, we don't have a lot of time.
And that said, Kampala indeed has its challenges. The biggest of which is the population bulge. And I think if you look at the KCCA, so many projects have come out. The road fund of $250 million with COLAS, smart school program, greening, and so many programs within the city. However, the competition is with the population bulge and the pressure of the new emerging middle class, which I think is something that the party is looking to work into and to also improve for all of us who live in Kampala. That said, I know that NRM still remains the best option. As you've heard, they have no manifesto.
No.
And I encourage all of
those
you.
Those who have manifestos, how far
do not misrepresent. It is her who did have a manifesto.
No, those who have
the National Unity Platform. Thank you so much, Agnes Namaganda. Thank you, Okot Ola. And thank you, Evelyn Kent Kasiri, aspiring woman MP for Kampala, for the perspectives and insight into how democracy can enhance and be an asset or not for development as a country. That will do it for the Kickstarter. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after the break.